panel. Our panel, in partnership with UXPH, the largest community of individuals passionate about UX in the Philippines. Yay! So exciting. Today in this panel, we're excited to learn about how one can get into the field of UX, develop their career, and make it count. How can they achieve a high impact in such a field? So in this panel, we'll be centering around 4 professionals in the UX field and learning about their stories and getting insights from their experiences. So in this panel, we'll be revolving around topics like UX, career dev, and also ethics, accessibility, and more. So while we're waiting for Aldrich, he said he'd catch up in a few. Let's do a little icebreaker, but first some reminders. Feel free to turn on your camera and interact in the chat. We'd love to hear about your thoughts, your experiences, and so on and so forth. And we'll have questions later after this panel, so feel free to ask in the chat or anonymously at the Poliv link that we will send. And you can start asking as early as now, don't worry. And finally, don't forget to follow our panelists and their work. So just a little icebreaker. You can share in the chat what interests you about UX. We'd love to hear about how you got interested in this field, like what made you consider it as a career, and so on. I guess for me naman, for instance, I got into UX after I'd start like joining org events. Actually, I think one of the workshops I attended was by Ellie himself on design thinking. Yeah, ACES Manila. You taught there.
Wow.
Also, in the icebreaker, feel free to share like where you're from. We have professionals from all over the Philippines. Sherry, for instance, is from Cebu. Chynna is from Davao. So yeah, we'd love to hear that diversity. Yeah. So while everyone else is sharing, I guess we can get to introductions. So our first panelist is Chynna Sedillano. She is an expert, an experienced engineer. Oh, why is it? Sorry, it's not working for me. Chynna Sevilleno is an experienced engineer at Meld CX, designing systems focused on vision analytic solutions. Before joining, she was a front-end mobile developer for NetZone Tech, where she first explored her love for design and development. She's also the co-founder of UX Society Davao and the core member of UX Davao, where she enjoys co-organizing local design events and meetups. Outside of work, she loves to play ping pong and travel. But due to the pandemic, she now spends her free time biking, learning photography, and playing video games. Let's give a round of applause for Chynna. Yay! Any quick thoughts you'd like to share with the audience? Oh, okay, that's good. Next up, we have Sherry Regner. Sherry Regner is a senior user experience designer at Accenture and Cebu UXD co-organizer, taking in an interaction design focused role in a global team setup. Sherry works closely together with business analysts and facilitates user research, ensuring that design solutions meet product requirements and target user needs. She is a fine arts graduate who has chosen an IT-centered career path and forged her way into becoming a UX designer. Let's give a round of applause for Sherry. Yay. Any thoughts you'd like to share with the audience? Quick.
We're currently hiring right now, so you can reach out to me if you're interested.
Ooh, what roles? That's nice.
Junior designers and senior designers. Pang-referral ko na yan.
Wow. Don't miss that opportunity, guys. Okay. Next, we have Apao, a customer experience manager at JG Summit, one of the biggest conglomerates in the Philippines. He has been in the industry for 11 years, coaching, teaching, and learning design thinking and product development in the tech community. He's also the founder of UXPH, a Filipino nonprofit organization that hosts the largest network of design professionals, enthusiasts, and students in the Philippines. Let's give a round of applause for Ellie. Yay!
Hello.
Any thoughts you'd like to share?
Thoughts? They're fleeting. Tapos na.
Got this. And last but not the least, he said he'll be catching up. Kasi we have Aldrich Tan. Aldrich Tan is a senior experienced architect and design leader who has led and managed design teams in various industries throughout the US, Canada, and the Philippines. He is currently the Chief Experience Officer and co-founder of the fintech startup NextPlay, a suite of financial tools built for MSMEs, and the managing director of UXPH, the largest nonprofit UX design community in the Philippines, focused on sharing, collaboration, and skill building for Filipino creatives. He also loves Korean barbecue, giant salads, cats, and terrible puns. Hopefully, let's give a round of applause for him. Yay! All right, and aside from those panelists, I'll just quickly introduce myself. Hi, I'm Bianca, the moderator for this event. I'm Developh's Chief Design Officer, where I help make community-centered experiences for the org. And I'm also studying design on Ateneo. So I've been doing design for like a long time since high school and shifted from arts to UX. So I'm really excited to learn as well from all the panelists today. Yay! All right, let's start. My first question for everyone is, UX is such an all-encompassing field. It includes so many different disciplines, and this can really overwhelm beginners. They don't know where to start because of this humongousness. So first, tell us about how you got into user experience in the first place. Chynna, may you share first?
Hi everyone. Hey guys, thank you for having me pala. It's an honor to represent UX Davao here. So to my Davao peeps there, hi. And to everyone who's here, thank you. So ano ba? How I got into UX. Actually, it was because of Alexis Collado. I think everyone knows him, right? Well, we were friends on Facebook, and he started sharing these articles about UX. At that time, we didn't really have knowledge about UX yet. It was about 2016. It was 2016. So UX was new to us. And then after that, I started joining online classes. It was a class by Gymnasium on UX design. And then that's when I started self-learning. And then in 2017, we started UX Society here in Davao. UX Society is an org created by, of course, the master himself, Alexis. He was actually the primary reason as to why I'm here right now. If it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't be that interested into UX. So he sparked that journey of mine. And then back then, we were just 3 students who started UX Society. And yeah, slowly UX became our passion, and then it grew from that. It's because of just that simple article shared by Alexis, and I started self-learning. So that's for me. It's a quite a not so interesting journey, but yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. How about you, Sherry?
Okay, nakakatawa, but I just followed the money. So, yun ang reason ko bakit I became a user experience designer. Because I am a graduate of fine arts, so supposedly I should focus on art-centered career path, right? But as soon as I graduated, I'm not so much interested in advertising. I'm not interested in creating flyers and banners. So I decided to pursue web design because I thought that everything will become digital anyway. And so it's a surefire way to have a consistent job. So I pursued web design. And then I realized that I don't know much about web design because it was not taught to us. So I felt like an imposter. But what I did was I just followed HRs. I checked LinkedIn and see what they're looking for. So they're looking for someone who can design WordPress themes. So I started learning WordPress themes. And then I just did that. And then I learned how to create stuff related to web design. And then I just um, started applying for web design jobs. And then after that, I became quite ambitious, I think, because I thought that if I would follow Google Careers, because they're, the innovators, then I would learn more about what's being brought upon, what's being built. And that's when I first learned the word UX. And I didn't know what that meant at that time because that was around 2015, 2016. So I learned UX because I checked Google Careers, and that there I see user experience designer, and then they need people who can do customer journey mapping, and I don't even know what that is. So I started learning from there. And then over time, um, I tried to incorporate that in my work ethic, and then I applied for um, career paths that really do have a user experience design in job description rather than me branding myself as a user experience designer, even though I'm just doing web design. So I think that's my career path in becoming a user experience designer.
Thank you so much for sharing. How about you, Ellie?
Hello. I'll share quite in chat. I'll share a link in. Me, one of
Wow.
Aldrich's jokes is have you seen the movie the Netflix The Old Guard?
Heard
The
it.
new si Charlize Theron yung bida ngayon. It's called the Old Guard, and Aldrich is joking. I'm part of the Old Guard, so I'm pretty in the Philippines. One of the people who's really started going to UX even before there was a UX community. And speaking of Aldrich, um, the funny thing is I actually was given the title UX at the time when I was given that title by my boss in US Auto Parts along with some CSJ there. Um, they just gave me the title. You're going to be the UX manager, and I didn't know what that meant. And I just looked for online, and I couldn't find any job titles at the time for UX. I couldn't find it in at the time. There was still trabajo.com, UX, Job Street, jobs. See, I'm the old guard now. So yeah, it was usability to UXPH now. It was I was given that role, and I had to look for what that role meant, and I searched for people who knew what that meant. No, and I think for me, I really came into that when I met a lot of people from the Philippine Web Designers org there. Credit to a lot of those guys because it was always UX was always paired up with web design eh. But I learned further along later on it's not just yung visuals din eh. It's also the experiences that's sometimes hindi lang yun sa visual design. Yeah, so me, I accidentally started, and that's my story. And you can read more about it in the link I shared. Hi, Royce. No, I'm not.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to jump in. Just
This
to
Aldrich.
clarify, Ellie, OG, for me, I call you OG, the OG designer of UXPH, but I don't mean old guard. I mean
No, no,
original.
no. No problem.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
There's Aldrich.
Right on time, Aldrich. It's your turn. So
Your turn.
yeah.
Bring
So
it on.
the question is, since UX is a big field, it can really overwhelm beginners. So we'd like to learn about how you first got into UX. What
Cool.
experiences and communities did you get in?
Yeah, for me, How did I get into UX? I actually started in college. I know a lot of people who started even earlier than college, but for me, it started in college where I was lucky enough to come across a design program. And I studied in Canada, so they actually had something geared towards technology there, and I was very curious. I was like, okay, what's this? Um, so that's where I kind of started to learn about graphic design. I played around with Photoshop, all these Adobe products, and then it introduced me to all these other concepts of design thinking. But I was very interested in doing that. So I actually took it upon myself to get very, very involved outside of the classroom. And this is for any designer or anybody looking to start a career in UX or design. I highly encourage this. And given that most of Developh's uh, audience is students, do your best to get involved in organizations like Developh or UXPH, UX Society, etc. outside of the classroom, because that's where you'll be able to learn from others, get a ton of experience. Back in college, I also freelanced quite a bit. I joined other organizations. I did everything I could to just learn and sharpen my skills. And that's where I started to fall in love with UX and just know and recognize the capacity and the potential in UX. And then here I am now, like 10 something years later, pursuing UX still in the startup industry.
Thank you so much for sharing, Aldrich. So now that everyone's learned about back how you guys started, your backgrounds, my next question is, how did you decide on a design path or specialization, whether it's research, design, or product management, and what other paths did you consider? Chynna, may you share with us?
So hi again. In terms of my path in UX, right now I'm still testing the waters because I'm working as a generalist in our company. So, but I was always passionate about working with design and development in general. That's why I took the role of being an experienced engineer. I wanted to bridge that gap between development and design because there's a big lack of UX engineers. So someone who can understand the language of developers and the language of designers. So that's where I wanted to be in the intersection of that. But I also enjoy research and all that. So it's if I think if you're starting a career, it's good to dip your toes in the water first before um, um, dedicating yourself to a certain path. So right now I'm still exploring and I'm enjoying every bit naman of exploration along the way. And I learn so much in different fields. The more that I learn, the more that it interests me. And yeah, so I guess you can say maybe I'm still soul searching, but one thing I'm sure of is I really love exploring the ins and outs of development, because first I was a developer before I was a designer, because I'm a graduate of information technology here in Ateneo de Davao. So we were exposed to a lot of software engineering projects. My internship was about software engineering, and then a little bit of UX in that internship as well. So yeah, I really like the intersection of design and development until now. But mostly in my work, I do a lot of designing and prototyping and research. Because currently in our company, we were operating as a startup. So you have to do a lot of things when you're working in a startup environment. So you're a researcher in one time, then you're a designer the next. So you're pretty involved and working closely with the product owners. So you get to explore a lot in the design process. So yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you so much. How about you, Sherry?
Okay. I in my role in Accenture, we are also work all around. It depends on the client and the need, but I actually prefer interaction design because I like strategizing more than deciding on the aesthetics of the user interface. Because admittedly, I think somebody else is much better at designing and choosing colors and fonts. But I think my key strength is more about interactions and the user flows and yeah, so that's why I chose interaction design. And I'm also very interested with user research because I like being in the field more. So learning about the user intentions and why they need this and what needs to be focused on is very important. So if you know more about their intentions, then you could um, advocate for the things that you wanted to be put in the design. So that's why I prefer very much kind of like a split between interaction design and user research. So that's my preference.
Okay. Thank you so much. How about you, Aldrich?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How did you decide on a path or specialization like research, design, product management, and what other paths did you consider?
Yeah. I'll start first with what other paths did I consider. My background is Chinese, so I was gonna go into business. So no, yeah. Anyway, so I was gonna go into business, but then I decided as I was doing more research about what programs I can take, I I got really curious about this whole design thing, this whole technology thing, and it kind of made a lot of sense. I figured that if I wanted to switch back to business, I can just try it. There's so many programs out there. So I was really fortunate enough to come across this design program because it took me through all these different facets of design, from graphic to architecture, information, etc. And that gave me the chance to kind of try things out. And like what China was saying, it's good to maybe start as a generalist and try different things out, see what you're most comfortable with, see where your strengths and weaknesses are. So through the years, as I kept practicing, going through branding, even graphic design, website design, and all that, and that's how I realized like where I really want to focus on UX. And actually, I am still a generalist. Because I do a little bit of research, I do a little bit of UX, UI, etc. And I actually prefer it that way because again, now I'm working in a startup and uh, just me being a generalist and knowing a little bit of everything and how things connect really well together has given me a lot of advantages in that area. So I'm a specialist in being a generalist.
That's interesting. Thank you for sharing. And finally,
Welcome.
Ali?
Hey, so my analogy for getting into any kind of career in UX, for instance, my analogy here is uh, raise your hands if you play role-playing games in chat. No, if you start with a role-playing game, you either start with one of three archetypes. Now, usually you're a magician. You use your mind to create stuff. No, or you are a fighter or a thief. You're very physical or agile. No. And then there's another field that's those who are very social, charismatic, like you're a knight or a bard, diba? So for those who play Dungeons and Dragons, who I play with, a lot of UX designers I play with. Um, so for me, at the start before, I was more a very cerebral type of person. So if I play Dungeons and Dragons characters, I always play the sorcerer or the wizard. I like that path in my. But later on, as I discovered, so in my case, I really like figuring things out, solving problems. So basically, yun yung design as a way to solve problems. No? Yun yung naging parang interest ko eh. Later on, as I was cast fireball, as we're going on my career, you discover challenges. You find out things na ito kailangan wala masyadong magawa nito. Ito wala masyadong gumagawa nito. what I discovered in early on in UX is there are a lot of great artist designers. You know, you express yourself in your art, in your design. They're amazing design problem solvers. No, you know how to do. You know how to figure out a proper design fundamentals to solve a visual design problem. Not a lot of researchers, but more that I thought was needed was not a lot of people who were socials, charismatic, who needed to be sociable to sell to stakeholders or to make an impact to stakeholders. So my career path took me to that path na parang mas kailangan kong to convince stakeholders what the value of design is, or towards showing what the impact of what's the business impact of good design. So yun yung naging career path ko kasi yun yung naging nakita kong need. Along the way, I was studying enough of the fundamentals like everybody else here, and I got deep na rin. I can pretty much do a lot of the other stuff enough at a certain level. But me personally, I started off really cerebrally of what I needed to do, and more socially in how to show what's needed, why you need design in the corporate, why you need design in startup. So yun na naging mas path ko. And I think for a lot of us, no, I'd like to share this people who are starting up in the career. Medyo ganun din, no. You don't know yet. You see a mountain range. Ang analogy ko kanila Mika when I was doing this discussion was, you see the mountain range, you see different kinds of mountains. And that mountain looks interesting. Until you get there, saka mo lang ma-experience na, ay, mahirap pala to. I need my magic skills. Or, ay, kailangan pala physical nito. I need my physical skills. Kailangan pala ako ng kasama dito. Dapat may mga kinonvince ako. So, yes, ganon. Ganon yung naging ano sa akin. I saw what needed to be done, and then I just dove into a particular mountain with the skills that I had at that time, and then evolved.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Ellie. So my next question for all the panelists is, career planning, like UX, is an iterative process. So can you share with the audience the strategies that you've used in developing your career to get you to where you are today? And also share with us how you validated what worked for you and what didn't, because everyone's case and situation is different. You, Chynna?
Hi. So, what worked for me in my career as I built my career? I started working as a UX designer quite recently, so I can't speak much about strategy. But what I can tell everyone really is to really grow your network. I think that's what really helped me get to where I am today. There were a lot of opportunities that were only possible if people people approached me, and I got from other people and from the communities that I'm involved in. For example, I'm involved with UX Davao. That's where I met the people that I look up to in the local community, and they've shared so much, and I've talked so much about UX, and it inspires you as well to be more proactive in terms of design, to be more involved in the community. You become more passionate in sharing your knowledge to others. So, there's no gatekeeping of knowledge in the local community and as well. And you get to learn from other people. And even though I didn't have practical knowledge yet of UX at time, because I was still self-learning, I didn't have a UX job, but I had enough knowledge of UX to get me prepared for the UX role that I'm in right now. So that really helped me accelerate my career. The network that I gained from joining a lot of communities. And also another tip would be if you want to work for a certain company, check out if the culture of that company, because a lot of designers take for granted company culture fit. if you think that this is the kind of company that I want to work in the future, it will help you grow, because if it's the company that you think that you can maximize your skills in, that's where you grow immensely. And when you grow immensely, you get to learn from a lot of people, from a lot of areas. It's not just in UX. It will not be limited in UX. You will learn business, sales, marketing, a lot of strategies, development. So it's your growth is accelerated, and I think that's very strategic, especially in the UX field, given that tech is changing a lot and trends evolved very fast, and the market is very hard to break, especially when there are lots of competitors around. You have to think creatively and innovatively all the time. So yeah, as a UX designer, if you're still starting, my tip for you is to just really get into the, get yourself out there, and don't be afraid of not being good enough. Because as a starting designer, I think one of my biggest challenges really was, I was thinking, baka hindi ko to kaya, or I'm not good enough for this role because certain reasons. But the first step really to knowing if you're capable of doing it is to try. And if you're humble enough to accept criticisms and learn from them, I think it's one of the best ways to grow. And as you know, a wise man once said, mastery requires a lot of modesty. So just be passionate about learning and growth, and adopt a mindset that it will not be perfect the first time. That's why UX is iterative, right? So if it's iterative, you will make mistakes along the way, and hopefully you'll get a better product. So Airbnb didn't start to where it is right now, diba? It used to be just a simple UI. It wasn't really that pretty, but eventually it evolved into what it is now. That was constant iteration. It went to the market, and then they got feedback. So just don't be scared of getting your feet out there. Just, Nike said, just do it. Just do it. Yeah, so yeah, that's probably my tip for starting UX designers.
Thank you so much for that detailed advice. How about you, Sherry?
I don't know if I can add anything. Chynna already, everything that she said is so meaty and packed. And it's so very inspiring. But I agree with everything that she said. You really need to network, because if you want to get into the design industry, it's an easy way to go forward is, to rub shoulders with people who are in the industry. You get a mentor in that industry. When you start things, you could ask them questions like, hey, am I doing it right? Um, and then you get really good feedback from the people who are in that field. And at the same time, UX is in the tech industry, and tech industry is always innovating, so we should be passionate in learning. So just because we got hired doesn't mean that learning doesn't end there. So we should always follow the trends. And then what I do is I listen to podcasts, not just the roots, but I listen to Google Design. So I listen to the product breakfast. I forgot the exact terminology, but I listen to that. So that keeps me inspired. And then because I'm inspired, and then they share things, so like, for example, they keep sharing on this particular book, and then I got curious, so I started reading that book. So that's, I think, one way of you to, evolve yourself and learn more about stuff. So yeah, that is really, really important when you get into the, not just the user experience field, but tech field in general. You need to learn and learn, because the studying doesn't really end there. You need, that's the thing that I can really share, and it's really important as a user experience designer.
Thank you so much for that, Sherry. How about you, Aldrich?
Hello. Yeah, I have a lot to say about this because I've tried a lot of things that that might work for myself, and just wanted to mirror what Gina and Cherry were saying is really find a support group, right? Like rub shoulders with people, talk to people, network. There's kind of a negative connotation to like networking, but if you don't look at it as networking for business purposes, it's really just have conversations, get to know people, and then form that support system. Learn about their stories, learn from their experiences, and just talk to them. And that's the best way you can really like kind of gain confidence, gain some momentum, and gain better insight on what to do and what not to do as you continue on your journey. So I guess at the core of that, it's really just learning to talk to people and not being shy about asking somebody if they'd like to meet or if you can pick their brain, because like a lot of more senior designers like the panelists here we're more than happy to give advice and tips for people because we're sharing and we're spreading the love basically. There's actually I'm going to call you out, Jacqueline, but there's a participant here who's all the way in California. And I actually met with her very recently because she reached out to me on LinkedIn and just said that, hey, I'm looking to switch careers into UX. Wondering if I could pick your brain. So we had a Zoom call and it was a great conversation. And so I invited her to come check out this event with us, and here she is. So similarly, when I was starting out, and I still do this, is I just reach out to people and no hashtag no shame, I guess. Just say, hi, I want to talk to you. I want to learn from you. So that's one of the biggest and most important things you need to do if you're starting a career or shifting careers. Um, yeah, aside from that, I think what else worked for me as I was forming my career is really just learn, get really, really immersed in the space that you're addressing. For example, you're starting a new job or you're starting a new role. Be obsessed with learning about it. Learn the ins and outs. And again, this learning still relies on talking to a lot of people. If you're in a new company, you talk to the project manager, you talk to the developer, you talk to the customer support people. Just really like eat, drink, sleep, breathe your new company just so you can get really know the in and out of it. And that's how you're going to be able to excel in your role because you'll know it at the back of your hand, and then you'll be able to better make decisions on what you need to do, whether it be design or strategy or whatnot.
Thank you so much for that, Aldrich. And how about you, Ali?
I'll just I'll just share another link because I had an article about this same thing around 2 years ago, I think. So it's very similar to everybody else is saying, and this time from a design thinking perspective, right? I was saying here, find a mentor that asks for opportunities, find a community, join many different UX gigs. So don't look just for one opportunity. Check out what's available and help out if you can. Try doing what your mentors are doing. If you're comfortable enough to replicate what your mentors are doing, try it on your own. Then keep getting feedback. If you're designing something, always get feedback, not just from one mentor, get comments from multiple mentors. So yeah, design thinking approach. So again, if you go back to my analogy on RPG, you have to actually go to the mountain and see what kind of challenge is there. Go through each mountain at the foot and see if do I want to go up the mountain or not. Then apply. Do you want to use magic? Do you want to use your physical skills, or do you want to get help, get other people? So yeah, I love this gaming analogies as well. Trying to relate it to everybody. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ali. So my next question for all the panelists is, UX professionals are responsible for being the voice of their users. So can you share with us how you advocate for your users in your work, and also any specific rules or tactics that you make use of? Chynna, may you share?
Hmm. I think for my current company, I'm really lucky because our CEO himself is an advocate of user-centered design. Not a lot of starting designers get that. So to the people at the top in my case right now, but my challenge now is how do I, as the UX designer of the project, communicate that same amount of level of importance about UX to my colleagues, for example, the developer department, our product owners. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge of advocating for users. So normally, there's been a lot of tips on how you can advocate for users, right? But usually what I do is um, there are a lot of design feedbacks in the company. So whenever I present a design, the product owner will be there, developers will be there. So how I defend my design is basically I always go back to the user. One of the things that I really try to uphold in my designs is always design with a purpose or with a reason. So why did I put a certain component there like that? So that's how I design, and then I always go back to the user. And once, for example, a feature, there will be trade-offs, diba? Kasi sometimes, oh, we cannot do this because it's not feasible on our end, on development's end. But you as a UX designer, you have to create a compromise between that. So how do you balance the user need and the technical feasibility of a product? So you really have to create a dialogue with the team on how you can balance that, but always advocate for the user. For example, that's why sometimes we have user personas, we have those interviews that we have with users so that we can get to know them more. So always go back to that. I try to always go back to that and refer to that. And once we communicate that same amount of respect to the users to the rest of the team, I think it will follow naman din na, everyone has the same mindset, the user-centric design mindset. So yeah, I think that's how we do it in our company.
Thank you so much for sharing. How about you, Sherry?
Okay, so what I do is, well, I think user research is a privilege. Not every project would allow you to do a user research, right? But what I do is, if I have the time, I could do like guerrilla research, and then I try to present that in a very nice way to like stakeholders or product owners and even the development team, and then let them see like, okay, this is the reason why this is the best tactic in handling this design. And also what I do is I make them feel that it is their idea in the first place, because if they feel that the idea is theirs, then there's not much friction. So that's what I do. So cold hard facts with back research is one way to push the design and also the user needs. So that's what I do.
Any other tactics that you use, or is it mainly?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, being a people person. So the more not get close, but the more you interact with the people who does the decision, make them really feel that this is the important, or this is the right way to pursue this. And I think you can influence them that this is the right path in order to para magawa talaga yung design na yon. So that's what I've been doing. And I also work closely with the developers, so I let them see na if we designed it this way, uh, it is much more important for users because yun yung goal nila. I think naman developers are uh, they are practical naman in a way, and actually I had no experience with hard-headed developers. If they really see the purpose behind something, um, they would really do it. It's just a matter of involving them. So if they are also involved in the decision making process, um, they would really be an advocate of that design solution.
Yes, I agree with all those tips. Thank you so much for sharing. How about you, Aldrich?
So how do we advocate for UX, right? Within different teams and stuff? Just to
How
clarify
you
the question.
advocate? How do you advocate for your users in your work?
Okay. Yep. Similar to what Chynna and Sherry were saying, you know, you do your research, you talk to people. So again, a really important skill to being an effective designer is learning how to talk to people, not just users, but your team members, your managers, your bosses, your customers, right? So learning to ask the right questions and learning to understand their situation, what they have to go through. So it's one thing to empathize with your customers, but it's also very useful to empathize with your team members. And what Sherry said was, you make it seem like their idea. Yeah, I mean that that's a tactic that would definitely work with certain personalities, and there's no escaping that. In certain work environments, you're gonna get wonderful people that that don't care about the user, and they want it to look good. So learning how to talk to them and learning how to manage their expectations is very important. And again, letting the data speak for itself. Guerrilla research or guerrilla tactics. Just go out and talk to people, identify objectives, and bring back the data. And then it's kind of hard to refute or dispute data, right? It's kind of hard to say, look, this is what our customers want or need. So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna like tell the customers that they don't know what they want or they don't know what they need? So that, and then similar to a number of points that we were saying earlier is build those relationships within your teams. So, get each other to support, get everybody on the same page, get them to understand how important certain bits of like design and research is. And then I guess the more you mature in your role in a company, let's say you're moving up to managerial roles, then even out of the beginning, it's already important to understand business constraints and business objectives. But the more senior you get, it becomes even more important to balance those resources, right? But when you're designing something, just knowing what the business objectives are at the same time with the customer objectives and finding that balance will actually help you win a lot of battles in the design table as well.
Thank you so much for that, Aldrich. And how about you, Ellie?
Okay, so I work for a conglomerate, right? And the conglomerate is very traditional thinking conglomerate. So how do you transform a traditional thinking conglomerate into something that moves on to become to the digital realm, accept new ways of working, and being very customer centric, user experience centric? It's nice. Yes, it's house moving castle. It's nice. Well, I'll copy paste something first. I'll copy paste. I have actually some articles as well that talk about this, but these are just the concepts. No, I will share it on chat. The concepts itself, the the theory that is here, but what really matters. And there's also another book I'd like to share before I forget. Outcomes over output. So those are great references to look at now. My key message is it helps to have help from high level. Always tama si Chynna. You have a high level support, it's really great. So you need to show wins now. So for instance, little wins that show us evidence to prove us data. No, try to get the minimum project that can get you evidence that supports your hypothesis. Now your research. In our case, in case you didn't know, we used to not have a South Star Drug. South Star Drug is one of the companies of the GG Summit conglomerate. We did not have an e-commerce site before this year. So we simply had to create an MVP, something that we need to release within a month or or 2, 3. Luckily, well, unluckily, because it's bad, we had the pandemic, but everybody stayed at home. They needed medicines. It was an evidence for us. It spiked up from 0 e-commerce to, I can't say the numbers, pero it's, so you show those numbers to the bosses. What can we do next? So meron kami next. Ano next namin? For those who are in Taguig area, Pasig area, and Quezon City area, we have Go Robinsons, our grocery store. So again, simple lang. Hindi pa nga sobrang perfect yung experience eh. But the fact is, we tried to get out a minimum viable product na. Tapos nung pagkalabas ng first month, internally we tested. Boom! Second month, we went live to one location, Marikina, Pasig area. So ngayon, meron na kaming target. Imagine mo whatever target you have right now. Ang gusto nila by end of the year is times 20. Imagine your target right now because of what they saw in the first month. Now, those are the kinds of things that the bosses will love to hear. The other side of it is the human element. So, alam mo ba why design thinking works really well? Because design thinking, di ba, may empathy ka and then may proving ka. There is the heart and there is the brain. So you need the heart, the stories that tell, that the stakeholders will remember. Alam mo, nung mula nag-release tayo ng South Star Drug, etong si nagpadala ng message sa atin na tuwang-tuwa siya dahil hindi niya na kailangan pumunta. They feel so safe. Meron kang kwentong ganon. But you also have the numbers to back it up, the quantity. That's why you do important mixed methods research, qualitative, quantitative, to show and show to stakeholders. You deliver that message, and everything else here, the frameworks that I share here, how do you get visibility within company? How do you do service maps and customer journey? Those were all the tools that we used. Exactly the same tools that we used to our stakeholders. And now I can't say all the other projects, pero I can only say yung mga live na. Right? It's exciting times.
Yes, exciting indeed. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So my last question for all the panelists, can you share with us what advocacies or causes that are close to you as a designer, and how have you worked towards this? Feel free to go in as much detail as you can about any projects or experiences that were closely connected to your work as a designer. Chynna, you may go share with us.
That's a really good question. Napaisip ako doon Sobrang philosophical. One thing that I'm really passionate about, and I've been advocating for this since I was in college, is really education, proper education in terms of IT, technology. First, of course, when we established your society in Davao, nobody knew what UX was. So we made it our job to really evangelize that term, evangelize UX, and of course make sure that everybody gets the same opportunity in learning that. So we didn't want to limit ourselves into just dito lang dapat na school ganyan. So I wanted it to be inclusive. So whenever we create programs, we always took into consideration those from the state universities and stuff like that. Kasi, di ba, when you're in a private institution, it's easier to get resources as compared to when you're in a state university. So kasi, the situation here in Davao kasi, a lot of private schools, they don't really share a lot of their resources compared to, for example, di ba kasi, so we partnered with Ateneo before, and we tried to advocate na parang ang luma na tong tinuturo natin. We need to upgrade our curriculum and stuff like that. We needed to shift to a different kind of tawag ba niyan? Mindset in terms of creating software. So we wanted to advocate for human-centered design. So ayun siya. After that, we created programs that included UX na talaga. So right now, sa school namin, I mean, it's still started in Ateneo, but it's also starting in different institutions na rin. We try to partner with different schools, and then we have like parang exchange of teachers ganyan, so that we can have like courses na ma-involve lahat. And, there's a lot of communication with different schools. So, ang hirap kasi siya explain kasi it's about 2 years na since we did that. So, but anyways, the point is, we really tried to make our programs, workshops or seminars, talks more inclusive by always putting thinking of other schools as well, and not just limiting ourselves to being in a private institution. So I guess that's that for now. Also, in our current company as well, we're also advocating for ethical use of AI, because we are we're actually an AI company. So we do a lot of vision analytics, wherein there's a lot of ethics involved whenever you're dealing with vision analytics. So we try our best to adhere to certain standards in terms of designing for AI. And us as designers, we had to create, we had to base from, for example, IBM's design, designing for AI standards and ethics, because there are no set guidelines talaga on designing for AI. So yeah, that's it for me.
Wow, thank you so much for that. How about you, Sherry?
Okay, I think sa akin is more about accessibility design. I remember during UXPH 2020, there's a very nice guest. Unfortunately, nakalimutan ko yung name niya, but she's blind, and she really advocated about accessibility, and she made me realize how important it is. So I see to it that every time I design something, that it should be accessible not just to to regular users, but at the same time with people who have disabilities. So I make sure that the texts are the right size, na readable ba siya, legible ba siya, and the colors, the color contrast, and not just that, and yung mga components din, it would be user friendly for accessibility bots, etc. And aside from that, during COVID kasi, nakita ko how not just news but government, how they skew data. They only they present data in a particular way na to push their motives. Especially during the very early stage of COVID crisis, they always compare flu to COVID and make people think na COVID is not that serious naman, because more people die sa flu rather than sa COVID. And it was really frustrating for me. So that's when I started learning about information, data visualization and information visualization. So I'm still learning about that. So medyo hindi ko pa siya na-incorporate right now, but yun talaga yung sinastudy ko, how to properly show data in a way na hindi siya manipulative, and it's the correct way of showing data. So that's what I am advocating right now, aside from accessibility. So I have a mini project na hindi ko pa siya na-release because I got so busy. But that's something that I'm looking forward to kasi gusto ko siyang gawing case study. So yeah.
Can't wait to see that project. Thank you so much for sharing, Sherry. How about you, Aldrich?
Yeah. So to repeat the question, what are our advocacies, right?
Yeah,
Personal, professional.
advocacies or causes that you're close to as a designer and how you've worked towards these. You can go in detail about like certain projects or experiences na were closely connected to your work.
Sure. So I have I guess two main things. Well, three. One of them is I always advocate for good food. But so the first one is finances. So that's kind of how I where I started. Not really started, but like I got into fintech back in the U.S. Because I joined a company called Remitly because I really liked what they were doing. They were doing remittances for overseas workers back home to the Philippines, to India, etc. Right? There's a lot of immigrant workers who send, their family members. They go abroad to make more money to send it back home just to keep their family going. And that's something that really resonated with me because I'm originally from the Philippines, and the whole immigrant story really resonates with me. So that's how I started in fintech, and I wanted to use my design skills to get to help create better products and services for these immigrants, so they can send more money back home to their families, and so that's how I got started. Eventually, I moved back here to the Philippines, and I did a bunch of projects. But now, my startup, it's also advocating for financial wellness for Filipino workers. So what we're doing is, or we're moving towards, is salary management for Filipino workers. So what this is it's auto budgeting. By the time a worker gets eventually it'll integrate AI to cater to the Filipino employees' exact situation, and it will help auto budget for them by the time they get their salary. And eventually, we want to move towards helping them get insurance, get investments, and get overall to a better financial state. So that's one of my biggest advocacies and my biggest passions. My second one is really why I was so drawn to UXPH, and I want to thank Ellie as well for accepting me into the UXPH family, right? So, and I work very closely with Ellie, the OG, as well as Jordan, who's I don't know if you can see him, but he's here. Hi. Obviously, design and design education is a huge passion of mine, and that's why we at UXPH are making such a big push to help people onboard into the world of design, learn more about it. If you're looking to shift careers, come through. So some initiatives that are coming up, and there's a lot of you, but just still not publicly there. Is we're pushing a student development program, one that will give more support to students outside of the classroom, in terms of portfolio, resume building, interviews, and getting them ready for the job market. Because from what I've seen, there's not enough support in schools for that. So that's something that really resonated with me, because I was, again, very fortunate enough to get a lot of support from my school to help me try out all these internships at really awesome companies. And that's something I want the Philippines to have. As well as advocating for better design in curriculums, in the school curriculums, in universities, colleges, and working with IT educators to learn how to bring design and teach their students that as well. Fun fact, I don't know if it's that fun, but Jordan and I are actually engaging with an IT educator organization this Saturday. We're giving a workshop to them, and to showing them how they can use design and design thinking in the classroom. and bringing that in. So, through UXPH, the three of us, the whole UXPH team, we're all advocating for better design education across the Philippines.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Aldrich. And finally, Ellie?
Um, ayan na, sila Aldrich, sila Jordan, that's probably why they call me the OG, the old guard, no? I remember when we first had our meetup it was called Usability Philippines way back. It wasn't UXPH. No? We're just around in a bar somewhere in Pasig, somewhere here, Mandaluyong, I think. And there were around 12 people who was there. And we had a visitor, British UX researcher. No? And now look at this community. Ilan na tayo sa FB? I'm not sure. I've lost count actually of how many people are already. Because I'm not really.
It's
sila
over
Aldrich
5,000.
Yeah. So sila Aldrich na, sila Jordan, sila Etos. You, go, Bianca, you, Sherry, you're all being part of this movement towards and I think that has been my advocacy ever since naman. And little things like ito mga stories na let me just share dito. Jane Chen, I love this story, and then if you want to take a look at that, and then this one yung how bad UX killed Jenny. These stories are I think the better question is what motivates us, what motivates you, no? Why are we here, diba? Parang for me, yes, may story na there's a numbers game that we want to elevate everybody's lives to a certain level na standard pa lang. But also to inspire everyone, no? I think let's inspire everyone together na what we can do, and if we can make a little money out of it from our work or from our projects, why not, diba? To sustain it further, diba? So yeah, what am I advocating? Ayan, no, nasa ano ni Aldrich, nasa sign niya, nasa kanyang wallpaper. So things like that. And you the young folk na maybe when I'm gone, you'll keep on being there and sustaining, telling stories, inspiring, and being the next generation of and elevating everybody's lives to the better. And that's for me, yeah. Talk the talk, diba? Just do it, diba? Nike, just do it. Okay.
Wow, thank you so much, Ellie, for that advice, and to everyone else for sharing your experiences today. I'm sure these shed a big light on not just UX, but careers and impact altogether. And I'm sure that our audience has a lot of insights to take away from this panel today. So now we shall proceed to the question and answer portion. So to the audience, feel free to send your questions either through the chat or through our Prolive link. So our first question. Hello, I am currently a graduating university student pursuing a course from a very different field. I am actually interested in pursuing UX. However, I am conflicted if I should go back to school and get a degree related to it or self-study short course online and test the waters. Thank you. Anyone who wants to answer this?
I'll give a short answer. I graduated economics and I'm doing something else right now, totally different. But I'm learning from the things that I learned back in college and the network that I've established back in college. So honestly, if you can take a little bit from college, it's maybe the importance of networking, the people that you meet, and the things that you learn there. Parang you can learn it as you go even after college. Pero for me, the people, the relationships you establish for me is more important. So my answer, I was in HS, I was in computer engineering. Yeah. If you love it, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I agree with Ellie. I graduated fine arts, so it's not IT related, but I chose UX because I think it's more exciting. And UX is like, it has something to do with psychology, and I'm a bit of a science nerd anyway, so it was exciting for me. But I don't think the course is a, it's a pathway. I think if you build a portfolio, and then if you network, and if you try to study, it doesn't really matter na kuha ka pa ng course nun, or even short course. Portfolio, I think, is already enough to prove yourself na you can do it. And anyway, when you apply, there would be like a case study. So just try to apply and apply and apply, and I think eventually you will learn kung ano yung hinahanap ng mga tao, ng mga HRs or ng UX team in general. So yeah, just try to apply, kasi hindi mo alam, baka makapasok ka. And then from there, if you don't even know what you're doing, may Google naman eh. You can always search. And then you can ask the people who you're working with kung ano yung dapat mong gawin. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. We have 2 questions in the Zoom chat right now.
Bianca, can I chime in really quick for that first question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, there's a lot of career shifters, people in completely different fields looking into UX, and that's totally fine. I mean, again, Philippines doesn't have any dedicated design program, right? So where are you gonna learn? It's all online. Fortunately, there's a lot of courses online. There's boot camps, etc., which are all good avenues. But I think one thing that might still be hard for older companies to grasp is that design is really, grades don't matter. How well you perform in school really does. I was a terrible student, okay, and not that I'm not saying you guys should be terrible students too, but I would be gaming during class. I'd be in the back of the class and just gaming. I didn't care, but because it's so outcome and output and outcome driven, right? What's important in design is the effect that it has on its users. So as long as you're able to comprehend that and kind of take everything that you learn and put it into something that's usable, tangible, and has an actual positive effect, that will be a really powerful piece in your portfolio. So definitely I advocate, like, if there are schools, and Jordan will definitely advocate for that because he's in the academic space. It's definitely something that, if you want to go back to school, go for it. But if you want to just get your feet wet and test the waters, then you can just self-study and talk to people, go to UXPH events and Developh events, right? So yeah, you can start small. That way you also kind of save money in the process, and you just learn at your pace.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Aldrich. Now we have another really popular question in the poll. It's asking, do you have a mentor? How did you find or look for a mentor, and how did you approach them? Anyone who wants to answer this?
I can answer. Well, my sister is my mentor, but if you really want to get a mentor, this is, I think, the best way that you can do it. So for example, there is an event like this, and then you try to research this person. Like, okay, so there's Ellie, there's Chynna, there's Aldrich, and then you try to look for their post. What are they like in Facebook or in LinkedIn or in Instagram? You basically stalk them. And then if you have the time to, talk to them, and then you approach them. Okay, hey, I saw your Instagram post about this, or I see that you shared this one, or if they were very particular in this topic. For example, I'm particular with data visualization. You could reach out to me and then say, you said something about data visualization. I'm also interested with that. So we get a connection by then, and then pwede mo din ako i-add sa LinkedIn after that, or Facebook. And from there, you get a connection with me, and then later on you would ask, oh hey, I'm doing some designs right now, can you check it out? Parang ganon. So yeah, try to get a common ground from these speakers that you see, and then by then these speakers would remember you. So I think that's the way to, get started and get the mentor. Kasi it's so very awkward to reach out to a person and say, hey, can I can you be my mentor? Diba, ang awkward nun. Pero yeah, that's I think one way to get to know someone. What I did was, si Christian San Jose, he went to Cebu 1 year ago, and what I did was I researched his portfolio, I researched his work, and then I realized na my common friend para kami si Leroy. And then when I approached him, I said, "Oh hey, you know Leroy, right?" Parang ganon. So that was me getting a common ground from him, and then I added him on Facebook. So yeah, you can do that. Medyo weird lang, no? Because you're stalking someone, but nah, it's okay.
Anyone else who wants to
Yeah.
chime in?
I have a lot to say. So again, echoing the what Chynna and Sherry say. Again, talk to people. It is a little odd if you go up to somebody and say, "Hi, can you be my mentor?" or "I want to mentor you," or like it's just it introduces this weird dynamic, and a lot of people they'll say don't really look for mentors per se, look for answers. So again, just talk to everybody, ask them for answers, ask 5 different people the same question and see what they say, and then from there, that's where you kind of like get better direction on where to go, what resources to do, etc. Right? So for me, like, do I have a mentor? No, I don't identify like, yeah, that person, that's my mentor. Rather, I have a bunch of people that I look up to and I really respect, and so whose value opinions that I value. So I'll ask them for input. Hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And that's also why UXPH has a board of advisors. A few of them are in here. Hey, Fish, Jordan, Ellie, Artie. So because they all bring different views into the picture. So we always ask them for advice there.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
I actually have something to share kasi I'm a new UX designer. So basically, I've gone through that awkward mentor-mentee stage where the mistake of asking someone, will you be my mentor? And that's kind of a very straightforward way of asking someone to be your mentor. And that was like the first mistake that I've done early in my career. But along the years, I've learned that you can have a lot of mentors. It depends on how you build a relationship with them. I think the key really to an effective mentorship relationship is to build that relationship, make them your friend. It's weird connecting with someone on the surface level. It's important to be vulnerable with your mentor, especially on things like for example, if you need help or you need something from them. It's important that it's a mutual thing because they're investing their time on you, and it's you have to respect the fact that they're taking out some of their time to help you accelerate your career. So you have to acknowledge that. Actually, a lot the people from UX Davao are my mentors. Shannon, Jom, Marks. They've been a huge part of my journey. Although I think I did approach one of them with that "can you be my mentor" thing, but they've been. It's important to have someone that you're really comfortable with, that you can confide in as a mentor. someone that could resonate with how you feel, how your struggle, someone who could really help you out. For instance, there was this time when I was struggling with imposter syndrome. One of the people that actually nagre-reply lang siya sa aking Instagram story, pero one of the people that that really noticed na, asked me, oh, what's wrong, was Justin Win. She was one of the people that was really, for me, was really genuine in terms of like as a mentor to me. Ever since she had her talk here in Davao, it was about design sprints because she's the master at that. I've always looked up to her in terms of how she manages to connect with people, how she makes people feel like, she's just a human being just like you. She's just normal. She's I mean, despite her being at Shopify right now, she's one of the people that, kaya mo pa ring makausap, someone that you can talk to. So it's important to have that kind of relationship with your mentors. Build that, and it's important that you be vulnerable. It's one of the things that we usually take for granted as people, as human beings. Because these mentors are not just, they're also human beings. So yeah, ayun. That's my 2 cents in terms of mentorship. I hope it helps.
All right.
May I, sorry, like, Chynna, you said be vulnerable. I completely agree with that. That is extremely important because at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all want to be heard. We want to listen. We want to talk to each other, right? So if you're seeking mentorship, or you're talking to people, you're trying to get to know them and their stories, don't be afraid to talk about your weaknesses. Don't be afraid to turn on your webcam. Hi, everybody. Don't be afraid to just show yourself and say, hey, I really need help here. I would actually argue that it actually gets you a lot more opportunities by doing that. It gets you a lot more connections. Even in when it comes to business, for us with our company, we're extremely transparent with who we're trying to work with. And we just say, hey, this is what we can do. This is what we can't do. And it actually gets people to trust you a lot more and say, yep, this person seems very passionate. I see potential. Versus and Filipino culture, there's this whole hiya culture, right? We all are afraid of looking silly or saying the wrong things, and not wanting to look dumb in front of our peers. But if you can get over that, it's actually very, very uplifting. It's very liberating, just to be genuine. So thanks for bringing that up, Chynna.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing their answers on this. So next question, really tough one. Question: the startup I work with recently has no process. How do I create a case study out of it? So basically, now I am just a pixel monkey. Anyone who wants to help out? This person?
If nobody else wants to, I'll go.
Look for another job.
Ionia. All right. Startup I work with recently has no process, and how do I create case studies out of it? Just because you're turning into a pixel monkey. So it's an unfortunate situation. There's a big misconception. Designers, yeah, okay, that's Photoshop, right? Like, no, it's not just Photoshop. I mean, that's a tool, sure. UX design is not graphic design, and so I think um, it depends as well on your environment. If you go into a startup, and if you're lucky, then their culture is more open-minded and accepting, and they're willing to try new things out. If you go into a corporate setting, there's a really good chance that they're not as open to new processes and trying things out because they're pretty set in their ways. But you might get lucky, and you might find a really, really good team that will help empower you there. But I think again, vulnerability is very important. But it also starts with education, and awareness, and talking to the stakeholders. Again, talking to people, super important. talk to those people, get them to understand what it means to have a UX process, how it can really help, how it can really benefit the customer and ultimately the business. And then you start from there and you build your way up. However, if again, and I've encountered this, and it's one of the worst experiences for a lot of designers, especially if you're the only designer on the team. Oh my God, it's unfortunate. Sorry, my cat is meowing. But um, I lost my train of thought. Thanks, cat. Yeah. So sorry. If you go into an environment where you're a very you're a solo designer or people are not accustomed to it, then it is an uphill battle that you're going to have to fight. It's not impossible, but it is very difficult. And if you're so you may want to consider looking elsewhere. Or if you're up for that challenge, then good luck and more power to you. But um, you're gonna have to play a lot of politics as well.
I
I
see.
agree with Aldrich. So talk to stakeholders and make it, like I said earlier, make it seem like it's their idea. But but if it doesn't work, uh, it's not your business anyway. So so I think
Yep.
you would grow more if you would look for a company that values um the design culture.
Yeah, definitely agree. Anyone else who wants to share their input?
Okay. So there are multiple levels to this kasi you're when you start to do that, you apply the same concept of design thinking to your to your boss. The empathy. Why do they think that way? Why have they established this way of working before, 'di ba? And then explore different ways of what is the problem? Baka naman ang problem na sinesolve mo. Kasi you're already assuming that this is the problem. Is this really the problem? Baka naman sobrang busy lang ng boss and open naman siya sa other ways of working, 'di ba? Or baka wala lang understanding ng yung masyadong focus sa development. Yun lang yung way of apply your design same things that you learned in design thinking, di ba? Empathize with them, understand their context, how has this worked before in other companies, di ba? And then find a focus area. So yung isang article na sinabi ko, how can you have impact as a designer? In my experience, work with your circle of influence, di ba? Why stress yourself over something that you do not have control over? Focus on your immediate person you can influence, your boss, di ba? And then from there, if you can convince your boss, how do you eat an elephant, di ba? One bite at a time. Get that first level first. Get that win from your boss first, and then get to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. Eventually, hopefully, having faith, dadating ka dun sa highest level. Since startup, medyo mas madali, kasi it's not as big as pero the same principles apply. Understand ano ba ang problema, understand context. And then same concept then. Story, evidence, proved by data. You have your qualitative research, you have your quantitative research. So you just don't come in and saying this is the right way to do things, diba? You understand first, then you figure out maybe let's do some research. If we do this, are you willing to do this? Negotiation skills. So medyo ang challenge dito is this the career path that you want to take on? Kasi a lot of pixel pushers prefer to be individual contributors. No? They don't want to be the persons who want to face. If you're willing to take on that challenge, magta-transform ka. You are now not just back to my original analogy. You're not just a magician. You're casting charisma on yourself and trying to learn that skill of convincing your So you will learn. That's a challenge for you, and it's fun if you can pero are you willing to take it on? If you're willing, people like us will help you. Good luck.
Wow, thank you. That's so motivating. Mhm. Um, I guess we can move on to the next question. In the research part of UX, what are the must-know techniques or methods that any UX practitioners should be familiar with?
I'll answer this. So, sino bang, ilan ang raise hands, ilan ang UX researchers here? Wala. I'm checking out Uh-oh. Wala sila Angela Pero okay. Yes, meron tayo si Jason. Yan. Yay, meron tayo. So what are important? There was actually a recent conference, UXR. I think they still share a bunch of materials there. It's really great to look at that materials there. There is may share ulit ako sa inyo yung link. Pero it's also figuring out if there's one key thing na for me has worked well is try to look at Norman Nielsen's article on the research methods, the quadrant of quantitative versus qualitative and attitudinal versus behavioral. Study that quadrant, and then the next one, study about mixed methods of research. And why do I say you need to study mixed methods? Kasi again, going to my story, diba? How do you convince your stakeholders? You need your qualitative, yung ano ba yung naging problema, and you need your quantitative. We know that statistically, 10% of 90% of our users encounter this problem, and this is what they say. So you have your story and your numbers. So yun ang fundamentals na I would highly recommend you look at. And then, isa-isahin mo yung research na yun. Nakasulat doon. In-depth interviews, participatory diary studies. Isa-isahin nyo yun. It's very great fundamentals. And there is an article here on how to do research. Kasi a lot of people start with, let's do usability testing. But the real question is, the real process is, ano ba yung question na gusto mo munang malaman? Ano yung na gusto mong masagot? And a lot of say, hindi, mag-survey tayo. Ano ba yung question na gusto mong sagot? And then you figure out, if that's a question na gusto mong sagot, I think research methods for that. So, very fundamental thing na a lot of people will learn more about. So I'll try to look for the article. There is a Medium article on how to do that particular research, yung quadrants, research quadrants. You figure out is the question qualitative, quantitative? Is it behavioral, attitudinal? Behavioral, something that is observed versus attitudinal, something that they say. Kasi sometimes what they say is not what they do, di ba? And then quantity, if you want to benchmark versus something, quantity. If you are exploring problems, qualitative. Okay?
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else who wants to share?
I will remain mostly quiet, but I shared a resource earlier called for a book called The Mom Test. And in terms of research, it's really important to know how to ask the right questions so that you don't lead and skew your data. So it's called The Mom Test. Check it out. You can download a free book somewhere on the internet. It's an easy read, give you a lot of fundamentals of asking good questions, and even figuring out how to start with your design projects, and even talking to people, actually.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Aldrich. Okay, there's another question from the poll. Is this a stigma? UX designers are extroverts now. Anyone who wants to give their thoughts on this?
I disagree with that. Only because I'm one of the people who aren't extroverts, actually. I'm the kind of person who can't keep a conversation going because I get really tired easily. Or like, alam mo yung parang, they call me, yung term ngayon, nanggo-ghost, bigla. So, parang, yung introvertness level ko, umaabot ganun. So, parang, it's not true that introverts can't be UX designers or the other way around. It's a difference can just I think introversion naman has something to do with like energy, you know, how you spend your energy. Do you get satisfaction from conversing with people? You know, get energized by that, or does it um, um, do the other thing around? As for me, talking naman to people, it's you know, it's draining mentally and physically. And part of that, being an extrovert, I don't get, you know, the satisfaction, or parang after parang I get energized because, you know, I talk to people. But of course, it's not really, you know, there are a lot of UX designers that are introverts. I think I think a lot of people that I know in terms of UX are introverts. Sa just, you know, the people I just know. Pero for example, Aldrich. I think Aldrich is an extrovert. He gets a lot of
No, I'm
you
actually
know,
I'm just kidding. I am very much an extrovert. Yes.
yeah, he's an extrovert. You know, he gets along with people well. He doesn't get anxiety from talking to people. Well, I do. I still do. And but you know, you gotta muster up the courage to, you know, talk to people despite that introverted feeling that you get, because um it's necessary to be able to communicate to people as a UX designer. But it's not a requirement that you have to be an extrovert to be able to talk to users. So yeah.
Mhm. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else who wants to share? Uh, I see.
Sige, I'm typing eh. I'm typing my answers. Actually, a lot of the people I know are some of the most talented people I know in UX are actually very introverted, and it takes them a lot of effort to talk to people. But when they do, they come prepared. They are very, very prepared. That's why they seem effortless. So, to be honest, and I'll call out wala dito sila eh. The people who I know are very good. Si Christine Avicen yung aking staff, si Mika Aldaba and Mika sa Make Technologies. They are all my introverts, but they are so talented. And when they start to speak, very ano talaga, meaningful. And I think, and my thinking, my personal hypothesis is because the introverts tend to reflect a lot, and they come really prepared when they need to do an interview. They do their research plans, so they're ready. Yun nga lang, their social meter goes really down, and they will shut themselves out. Like I know Mika will go on when there was no COVID yet. He would go on field trips on his own to Tibet, trying to be on his own world. No? So, yeah, I disagree somewhat kasi a lot of people I know that are talented and are introverts.
Yes, yes, definitely agree. Thank you so much. Last question for everyone. How do you juggle learning and networking while currently working in a different field? Anyone who wants to answer this?
Be an
Okay,
extrovert. I'm just joking.
sige, I'll share something. I'll share something on productivity. There's something I learned recently called the productivity equation. No? Traditionally, the productivity is output over input. No? Pero if you're a knowledge worker, if you are like us, UX professionals, ang formula mo daw dapat is useful output over input multiplied by fun. So useful output over input multiplied by fun. So it has to be fun. But the idea is, yung analogy is, there's an airplane, there is a pilot, and there's an engineer. And if you are at the start, you are pilot mode, you plan your day. Itong gagawin ko, you put in your flight path. No? And then the rest of the day, you are in your plane mode. Naka-plane ka. So yun yung useful, and then yung si output, si useful output. And then meron kang engineer mode. So engineer mode will be probably your weekends or at the end of the day where you reflect. What did I do today? Was I able to improve? How can I improve? How can I study? No, so meron kang engineer mode. So I think for me, that productivity equation was meaningful kasi now I structure my day in terms of, in the morning, I'm in pilot mode. So 30 minutes, ano yung kailangan kong gawin for the day? What are the big rocks? If you're familiar with the rocks analogy, di ba, in the container. What are the big rocks for the week? So, and then plane mode ako, dire-diretso. Pum, 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 meetings. And then at night, meron akong engineer mode na I find time towards how can I improve? Was I productive this day? How can I make things more efficient? So am I documenting things properly on? So yun yung engineer mode ko. And for that actually, and of course, let me not forget the fun factor. You are able to only do it. Siguro ang analogy ko sa fun, yung fuel eh. The fuel that keeps it moving, everything moving is yung fun. Is it fun or meaningful for you? And what's the definition of fun? The fun theory says that it should not be too hard that it's frustrating, but it should not be too easy that it's boring. So your work should not be too boring, but it should not be too frustrating. You're still enjoying yourself. It should be like a game. So yeah, that's productivity and how you are able to balance everything. So has to be fun, has to be meaningful.
Definitely agree. Anyone else wants to chime in?
I think juggling and learning, it could be a lot of information overload, and it can be very overwhelming, especially if you're shifting careers. So I guess my tip, aside from what Ellie said, was, make it fun. Find a way to make it engaging for yourself. Compartmentalize and manage your time better. Like for me, within my own schedule, like I have a pretty packed schedule, but I make sure that I dedicate a few hours, maybe an hour a day, to like read something or learn about something, or or on the weekends I give myself a little bit of time to try something different outside of my regular schedule, and that way it varies it up. You always find new ways to be engaged, and yeah, you just manage your time a bit better, and that way it doesn't seem like you're stuck in a cycle of the same crap every day.
Anyone else? Or is that all?
I just want to add, yung being fun and meaningful. Luckily kasi sa UX work, when you really are doing UX work and you're seeing the output of your work with the and your actual end user and how they really appreciate it, and they tell you, it's a dopamine effect on your brain. It's like, I just helped somebody. So it drives you to forward. So it creates a habit. So what does a habit affect? Diba? There should be a trigger. There should be a reward at the end. So once you have that, usually if you're doing real UX work na yung parang nananalo ka, it has that amazing effect on you, and it energizes you somehow.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for this. And that concludes building a UX career with impact. Thank you so much, everyone, to everyone who went and who engaged with us. Don't forget to connect with our panelists and follow their work, and also be sure to follow Developh and UXPH. This isn't the end of our partnership. We'll definitely be engaging more with each other in the future in order to evangelize UX in the Philippines.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for having us. Can I plug something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously I'm going to plug UXPH, and for those in outside of NCR, there's Cebu XD, there's UX Davao. Connect with them on the socials. But I do want to let you guys know of this thing here that's happening. We're going to make a very formal announcement very soon, but look out for it. It's happening in November. It's a virtual event. A lot of speakers. Workshops, good for beginners and advanced levels as well. So stay on the lookout for that. Stay on the lookout for UXPH initiatives coming out your way. And then, on the chat, Kringle Garcia, she just said those who want to volunteer with UXPH, head on to the site, fill out the form. We're also right now we're releasing. We've released a few scholarships to the upcoming UX Plus conference, and then we'll also be releasing scholarships to UX PH's conference. So, yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Thank you again to Developh for arranging this with us.
Just to add to what Aldrich was saying, our volunteers get special lessons. So last Saturday, Mika will tell you that we just had actually a lesson on this impact
Yeah,
on
that's true.
forming business teams. Yeah, Mika, tell them about what you learned.
Seriously?
Yeah, volunteers, they learn about it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So you get to work very closely with the UXPH team as well and learn a lot, especially because a bunch of us like to teach and talk a lot. So yeah. So thank you everybody as well for being part of the community, and look forward to seeing everyone again soon. Thank you again, Developh.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
for
guys.
inviting me.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Salamat, Bianca.
Last
Salamat.
picture. Last picture.
Oh,
Chynna,
let's
nice
take
to
a
see you,
picture. Yeah.
Chynna.
Okay. I will be taking wow, we're so many though. So take a lang of your own screen. Wow, 100 plus. Amazing. This turnout.
That's a
Okay.
really good
Galing,
turnout.
galing.
Thank you,
Good job.
Nice one.
Uh,
One,
shout out to
2, 3. One more.
sila Shannon, nandiyan dyan.
Okay. Done na. Thank you.
Fish, yun na pa ba nandiyan dyan? Shout out to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.